Let us read some information about ATP and let us understand what is ADP also. ATP, adenosine triphosphate, is energy-rich molecule and energy is stored in the bonds by which phosphate groups are attached to each other. These molecules are stored in the cells as per need. Chemically, ATP is triphosphate molecule formed from adenosine ribonucleoside. It contains a nitrogenous compound adenine, pentose sugar ribose, and 3 phosphate groups. As per the need, energy is derived by breaking the phosphate bond of ATP. Hence, ATP is called as energy currency of the cell. Now, all that we have read in this paragraph, we will try to understand it with the help of the diagrammatic representation here. Now, ATP structure has been shown to you, as they have said that it contains a nitrogenous compound adenine. So here we have this part is called adenine part. So this is adenine, which is a nitrogen base. Then it comprises of pentose sugar, that is ribose. The sugar that is present in ATP is called as ribose sugar, but because it has got 5 carbon atoms, it is called as a pentose sugar. So the formula of ribose is C5H10O5. So this is pentose sugar. You can see here, this is ribose or the pentose sugar. And 3 phosphate groups. So 3 phosphorus groups, you can see P is written here, phosphate bonds with more energy. So these are 3 of them are attached to one another, and if this bond breaks, it results in the release of large amount of energy. So where are these stored? The ATP molecules are found inside the cells, and whenever energy is required by the cell, the phosphate group, one of the phosphate group is going to be detached. It's going to get released from the other 2, and that releases energy and it can be utilized by the cell. So as per the need, energy is derived by breaking the phosphate bond of ATP. So the phosphate bonds which you are seeing here, this bond is broken so as to release energy. Now once one of the phosphorus group is released from here, what will happen? It will change to ADP, that is adenosine diphosphate. The remaining structure is same, that is adenine is present here, that is nitrogen base. The sugar is also ribose, but now instead of 3 phosphorus, we are having only 2 phosphate groups, and hence it is called as ADP, that is adenosine diphosphate. But as soon as this 1 phosphorus is released, this is the inorganic phosphate, and it releases the energy, and that energy is being used by the cells for various metabolic functions. So what we find is that ATP is a highly charged molecule. It is full of energy. You can see the battery is full here. But when 1 phosphate group gets detached to release energy, now what has happened? It has changed to ADP, and now it has become partially discharged. Now this ATP again can be charged and it can be converted into ATP by addition of 1 more phosphate group. So 1 phosphorus group, if we are going to add to ADP, it will become ATP once again. We will see this ATP Adp cycle in the next slide. This is all just for your extra information. So ATP, we can say that ADP can be just like a battery that has lost some of its charge. So here you can see that the battery has become somewhat discharged. So ADP is just like a battery that has lost some charge from it. And the common analogy that I can give you to explain how cells use this energy is to just think about some money. Now, if you go to a grocer's shop and you purchase some items, say about 100 to 150 rupees, and then you give him a check of a bank perhaps he will say, no, I will not accept this check. He will say that you give him some money regarding this and the check will not be accepted. So we can say that this food that we are going to eat is just acting as this check. This food is going to provide us with the necessary nutrients, but they cannot be utilized by the body for generation of energy. So the foodstuffs that we are eating that are providing us with the nutrients is just like a check. Instead, if we want to generate energy, in that case, what will you have to do? You will have to perhaps go to the bank and then you have to encash it. The check you have to get encashed. You have to get the cash from there and then you go and purchase the items. So same way, this ATP is going to act as the currency over here and we are going to call it as the energy currency, and this currency is going to give us the energy. So food is like the check that the cells receive and ATP is the cash that they can spend to do work. So I hope now you have understood this and we will try to understand the ATP Adp cycle in the next slide. Now here is the ATP Adp cycle. This is just for your information, extra information that I am giving you, that how ADP again is charged and converted into ATP. So here we have the ADP, that is adenosine diphosphate with only 2 phosphorus. Now one phosphorus, that is inorganic phosphate, is going to get added and energy from cellular respiration is required here. Now here, since the energy is going to be used up in adding one phosphate, so since it is use of energy or energy is being absorbed, the process is endothermic. So once one phosphorus group is added to ADP, it gets converted to ATP, that is adenosine triphosphate. Now here you can see 3 phosphorus groups. Again, when the body needs energy, the bond breaks and this bond on breaking releases the phosphorus, and this process requires water, so water is written over here. And once the phosphorus group leaves, because energy is going to be released, so this is release of energy and hence exothermic reaction, and again the ATP gets converted into ADP. So it's a constant process that goes on inside the cells in the mitochondria, where ADP is a discharged battery, and by addition of one phosphorus it gets converted to ATP, which again is a charged one, and it can be utilized to produce energy. So this is the ATP Adp cycle. Now here is a flow chart that is given in your textbook, and it depicts the process of energy production through aerobic respiration of carbohydrates, proteins and fats. So we will have a look at this. Here you have the 3 energy giving nutrients: lipids, carbohydrates and proteins. So we have seen that body derives most of its energy from glucose, which is the simplest form of carbohydrates, and then it goes on to lipids if carbohydrates are not available, and lastly proteins, because proteins have got various other functions in the body to perform. So lipids are broken down into fatty acids by the various digestive juices. Carbohydrates will be broken down to glucose and proteins to amino acids. Now if lipids are being oxidized and fatty acids are the simplest form in which they are broken down into, the oxidation of fatty acids results in the formation of acetyl-CoA, and then it enters the Krebs cycle, and we know that after that how energy is going to be released along with waste products as carbon dioxide and water vapor. So this is what is the pathway that is going to be followed by lipids. If it is carbohydrates which are getting oxidized, the glucose molecule, the first step we have studied, glycolysis, then it gets converted into pyruvic acid. This pyruvic acid gets oxidized to acetyl-CoA, then it enters the Krebs cycle, and finally we get the energy in the last step. Similarly, proteins are broken down to amino acids. They are going to be directly converted into acetyl coenzyme A, and then it enters the Krebs cycle and the energy is released. So this is what is the diagrammatic representation, or what we call it as a flow chart, and fill in the blanks you are supposed to do in the flow chart. Flow charts are a part of your one of the question pattern, and it can be asked to you to complete the flow chart. Sometimes only the important these terms are given to you and you have to arrange them in the flowchart pattern. Sometimes the flowchart is ready and you just have to fill up certain blanks. So this is what is the aerobic respiration. And so with this we come to the end of aerobic respiration. In the next slide we are going to study about the anaerobic respiration.